your heart thinks, feels, remembers on its own. Your heart thinks on its own, apart from your mind.
Wow.
And there's compelling evidence, and I'm quoting this, that it's connected to an intelligence that doesn't exist in this time space.
Whoa.
Like, that is the science of fucking intuition. You're saying tapping into that higher intelligence, and I'm like, yeah, that's so crazy how we intuitively know to call it higher intelligence when that literally is what it is.
Yeah.
And essentially the heart has all these neurites on it, and it has a highway to the brain. Like, it has its own communication with the brain.
Wow.
And those neurites, they have discovered there's like over 40,000 of them, and essentially they're brain-like cells that exist on the heart, to the point where scientists have started calling the heart the little brain.
Wow.
And to really think about that for a moment, like,
It's wild because, again, it's like we've, the saying of like, listen to your heart, tap into your heart. Like, we know this, but we almost, it's like now the fucking science is catching up to what all of the great sages and wisdom texts and everything has been telling us forever, that it's like, no, there's like actually, like, this is doing something. Like, it really has this function. When you explain it like that, it makes so much sense. And I'm like connecting it to what I know about like the circuitry and human design, and like that there is a literal communicative pathway happening between our energy centers, and the heart being like one that truly like lives in its own organ that is so complex and intelligent. And it's like, it makes all of these little sayings so true of like, the heart wants what it wants, like, let the heart speak. Like, it actually does those things. And I feel like those sayings and like these little pieces of wisdom have been coming from us feeling that and living that. And we didn't even realize that, like, that the heart actually has this like way of functioning to it like a brain. And we're seeing that now. That's really, really
but
cool.
But also there's indigenous tribes and cultures that teach babies, like, in the first few years of their life, how to think with their heart. Like, that is the initial training of teaching them how to think and where to get their guidance from. Isn't that so beautiful?
Wow.
But in Western civilization, when all the white settlers came and put in this new curriculum of learning and totally changed the way that we connect to our bodies, if we even do, like, we're taught to just use logical thinking and to use the mind and to be like fucking computers that are pushed through a system to work for some company that doesn't give a fuck about you. I mean, I'm not going to go down that alley, but
yeah,
the heart is so powerful, and it's so beautiful to connect to like ancient wisdom or these indigenous cultures that are like teaching little kids how to tune into their intuition. Wow. Like, how to trust it, how to listen to it. It's just so beautiful, because when you start tuning in, and I think a lot of people are way more connected than they even realize. We all are so connected, but we dismiss it.
Yeah.
We're like, oh, can't do that. Not possible, because we're so connected to up here and the logic that is literally just a complete book of the past. Like, our brain is just all these programs, like a filing cabinet of like, this is how this works. This is what's possible. This is how love works. This is how marriage works. Right. This is how money works. And then we have this vision that our heart is calling us into. And we're going through the filing cabinet of our subconscious being like, nope, fucking ditch it. Can't do that one. Yeah. And we're like totally then putting ourselves on this path of constriction and safety. And that's where like another level of anxiety really starts to come in. And, when you start following the heart, it's like what Jenny was sharing in the Oasis workshop that we just had, where she was saying, like, there's a risk. Like, a risk is going to pop up. And you have to learn how to, like, spot the risk and lean in. Because with that heart guidance, there is going to be something scary that's connected to it.
Right.
And there's going to be a risk involved. But you got to take the leap. As you walk down that path, you gain more and more trust with that guidance, because you realize how transformational your life becomes with following that, and how magical life becomes, that you're like, of course, here comes the vision. There's the risk. I mean, no, I'm going to take the risk because I know everything always works out.
Wow. Dude, it is like we're remembering how we actually function. And I feel like the timing of this is perfect because I was just reading last night in the human design book that's written by the founder. He's explaining that in, I think it's the years like 1781, that we shifted from being 7-centered to 9-centered beings. That's talking about like the energy centers, and how it basically was time to like quote unquote retire the mind from being the only like organ that runs things. And that now we are in this era of listening to and acting on and giving credit to the other forms of intelligence that live in the body. And this is like basically what we're saying is like the heart has its intelligence and it will speak to you. You will see visions from it. The spleen has intelligence from instincts, the sacral, the gut, like the rest of the body it's a holistic creature that is supposed to get input from all of the places, not just from here. And it's like the over identification with the fucking mind is where we lost our way as humanity. And now where we're finding our way back is reigniting and giving credit to the other forms of intelligence that live within us. And it's like, that's what this is unlocking, is when you're like, actually, I can tap in and explore what this heart center has to say. I can tap in to what my solar plexus has to say as an energy center, what my spleen is telling me. Like, these are like, the body is a holistic creature that cannot operate without all of its pieces. And yeah, I'm just having like a really profound moment of like how
No, I'm there with you.
cool it is. And it makes so much sense when you really think about it and picture it and look into it. And you're like, yes, like the mind was never meant to be the only one. It's a very powerful tool. Like, it is so fucking important, but it's been blown out of proportion in terms of its importance.
Mm-hmm. And it's connected to lower levels of consciousness, because when you're just believing, I think what's so powerful about children, let's say, learning how to connect with their heart, that when the mind is overactive, whereas in Western society, we're like fucking attaching to every thought and identifying with every story in the head, which is lower states of consciousness. When you're connecting to the heart, you're naturally sinking into a higher state of awareness, because when the mind comes in to wreak havoc and tell the false stories, you recognize it and you understand, oh wait, I can connect to my heart here and actually feel in my body if this is like something I need to listen to. And you just have this intuitive sense of like, that's my ego versus that's my soul speaking.
Yes.
And with that lower state of consciousness, we suffer like with, and this is why I found The Power of Now so powerful, because he talks about how so much of our suffering is connected to literally just identifying with every fucking story in the mind. And when you learn that you can observe it and you start detaching and you start connecting to your heart, this is where heart coherence comes in. Because what heart coherence is when you are listening, you're sending up those signals to the creative side of the brain. And then you start creating this frequency in your body because you're feeling so tapped in to like the guidance of your heart that you begin to vibrate at a different frequency. Your energy field shifts. The signal you send out to the divine matrix is stronger. And things actualize, like the things you desire, faster and like more in the way that you actually want them, as opposed to like an incoherent signal is your heart like sending you that vision, sending you those signs, and you're up here in the mind, and that communication, you can imagine the highway between the heart and the mind is just like a one big traffic block.
Yes.
You got people turning around, you got cars going up, you got cars getting lost. It's like you want that highway straight.
Yes.
And like clear.
Dude, okay. I feel like I have a visual thing that's to explain why I'm trying to like think about how someone could understand even further what we're getting at with like that there's these other forms of intelligence that live in the body, and they are able to go from energy into form. And the way they do that is through the throat. And the throat is not just having to do with like voice, but our voice as a species is the way that we are able to create things. Like, think about the first way that I would be able to communicate to you, at least since we don't have telekinesis, or we haven't figured it out yet. The first way that
we do, but we just
haven't used it for now.
I think we do.
Yes, there's
that's another story
but
after.
Basically, the way that the first stop of turning something from energy into form is to speak it through the throat. And in the human design body graph, every single center leads to the throat. Like the saying, all roads lead to Rome. Every center connects to the throat either directly or through another channel. And so if you look at the throat,
because it's like a center, like if you do imagine Rome, like it's literally like the center and every.
Yes.
Like,
well, it's not. It's not that. It's literally at the actual like radius center.
More north, but
yes, but exactly. All the channels and stuff that come off of the energy
like the
centers,
city center.
Yes, they connect to the throat. And the throat is the center of manifestation. It is the center that things take form. And for humans, like, the throat is not just the governor of your voice, but it's also literally the center of manifestation, which means to turn something from energy into form. And it's not fucking by accident that all of the centers lead into there. So it's like, if you have an intelligence coming and a wisdom coming from the heart, it is coming into here so that it can be created into something else. Like when you get inspiration and an idea, it channels into here to be created into form. If you have an emotional experience and it travels through to the throat to be expressed and explained and innovated, the spleen, the instinct gets communicated out through the throat. It is like the symbolic and actual center that things are created. And every fucking center goes to it, which is literally to say, when you live in alignment and don't just live from up here, you awaken the intelligence of the body and let the other centers properly flow together to manifest from the intelligence of your heart, your spleen, your gut, your sacral, your desires, your fucking crown, inspiration, everything.
Whoa. Okay. Was this what you were trying to explain to me before?
A little bit, yeah. It was because I was telling you about the throat and how, like, with the throat in and of itself, depending on if it's defined or undefined, that like dictates your voice and like your action taking tendencies. So yeah, it's related to that.
I'm also thinking, as you're talking about this, I've been diving really deep into Greg Braden's work, and he talks about the importance of words and language, which I brought up the other day to you, and how the words we speak are literally spells of how things manifest in the 3D. And I'm just bringing this up because it's connecting to what you're saying too. Not only like expressing it allows for the manifestation, but it allows for like the interaction with the field, because your words carry a frequency, whether they're just like meaningless or meaningful, like they carry a frequency.
Yeah.
And it interacts with the field in a specific way. That I'm connecting what I have learned with what you're saying, and damn, yeah.
Yeah.
Powerful.